You will not be able to buy or sell without it. It's already happening in New York City. We've warned about this time and time again. And yet it's in front of your face and you still want to call us liars. You still want to say it's something else. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh. Ba'ashem. Yahweh Shai. Ba'ashem. Rukakadash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth to sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaim this truth. Braka the Yahweh, Braka the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rukakadash, Brakatum. So here it is, just like we said that we were going to do. Incrementally do this, and that is, the smart cities, etc. will begin this idea of government-owned grocery stores. Well, it's already here in New York.
Advantage of that, that deal basically, and is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket? So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass it over to our EDC head, G-Pack, to add some additional details.
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be a sort of library card exit, and also we manage who's buying and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. So we are mindful of that, and so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to making sure that that does not happen.
All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rukakadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishop, the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, Ba'ashem Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, which is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Ba'ashem, which means in the name of Yahweh Shai, is the name of the only begotten Son, who was sent to deliver the children of Israel from their sins. Ba'ashem Rukakadash means in the name of the Holy Spirit, which is the volume of the book, the Spirit of truth. Shalom, Ba'ashem, peace to the elect. That's the number of the children whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life, whose ordained to be delivered in these last days. Shalom to you all. And it says here, New York Mayor Montgomery has set aside $70 million to build 5 city-backed grocery stores where staple foods will be sold at a lower price. And also, too, I have here the article, all right, in which it was stated how this supposed plan is supposed to work. All right, from the New York Post. It says Mayor Montgomery, this is from the New York Post, Montgomery City-owned grocery stores won't ask for ID, meaning non-New Yorkers can buy cheap goods. So the original proposal was that you would have to have a New York City ID, all right? But there was backlash from City Hall in regards to that plan. So they're working up a way, like the Oriental lady said. I don't know if she's more like Ammonite, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, I'm not sure. All right. She said, yeah, we're going to have a library card-esque type of presentation to the access of these goods, all right, of these groceries that are set. Okay. He said, Mayor Zoran Montgomery promised city-owned grocery stores won't require ID for shoppers. His administration confirmed Monday allowing non-New Yorkers to take advantage of the discounted goods. The 5 planned taxpayer-subsidized stores, which are set to sell a core basket of goods at 30% below retail prices, will offer a free voluntary membership card, though documents show it will not require a residency check. You see, so they're presenting a plan to sell groceries at a lower price, but in order for you to receive, the groceries at this price, you have to have a membership card, which is ultimately a prerequisite to the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, where the New World agenda will be established. And in order for you to buy and sell, you would need the mark, aka a digital ID. Okay, so it says Montgomery administration officials revealed the program last week when facing questions from reporters about how they stop bad actors from buying in bulk and taking advantage of deals of an offer. Right, in other words, they buy it at a lower percent and then go back and sell it to someone that doesn't have the membership ID. Okay, and this is why when Esau Edom goes to show forth his horns and set forth his New World agenda, all right, as the scriptures describe, when he goes to set forth his enterprise, he's going to make it digital, so you can't get any money on the side or sell anything under the table. All right, and it's interesting that they have grocery stores. They have a budget for grocery stores that they set out to the side just for this program. Okay. Meanwhile, there's been reports of lack of fertilizer, lack of food, lack of this, lack of that. All right, but they have a budget to set up a grocery store in order for you to buy and sell with some form of ID. Why is that? Okay, because this is a part of gradualism to get people used to these type of systems, so that when they go to implement the mark of the beast, that they'll be already acclimated into this type of programs. Especially when you have cyber attacks and lack of resources. Okay, they will already have these tactics in place as a resolution to the problem. Okay, and something else I'll add on real quick. The Spirit is on me to do so. Let me see if I can. Let's see what else is on here. All right, let me go into my history real quick. Okay, here we go. I seen this, well, I actually heard this on the news this morning. I listened to 680 AM radio. All right, it says U.S. intelligence agencies suspect Iran-backed hackers are behind a wave of coordinated cyber attacks targeting water facilities across 7 states. The breach has disrupted over 30 municipal water systems in Minnesota alone. And they were that city, Minnesota, again, a.k.a. the Twin City, all right, which is reminiscent of the twins, Jacob and Esau. All All right, because all these things are leading to Jacob's trouble, and in the midst of Jacob's trouble is going to be the implementation of the RFID microchip. All right, which when you go to that scripture, which we went to on numerous occasions, it'll tell you when you start from verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Right, what is the image of the beast? Basically, the New World Agenda. All right, which was presented and displayed under the Georgia Guidestones. All right, new guidelines, a new global constitution. All right, he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the number of the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Right, and here it is. It's showing you that there's going to be a mark, in which is going to be implemented for people to buy and sell. Here we are telling you, prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, starting with the apostles, the bishops and elders of Great Millstone, have been telling you that it's going to be a digital ID in order for you to buy. In New York City, has set a prerequisite with their own grocery stores to set up membership cards for you to buy groceries at a lower discount rate. So why is it so hard to believe that they're going to implement something globally, a mark of the beast, a digital ID, in order for you to buy and sell in the near future? All right, don't be surprised if, because according to what they're saying is they don't have the ID that they want. They said they have a membership. Well, how do you think that membership is going to be? They're not going to have you go in, you may take a picture or whatever, but all forms of ID are moving digitally. Everything is becoming subscription based. All right, so what? You can tap on your phone. Oh, I got my ID. Even when you buy tickets to a concert, and you get the tickets to a concert, or you want to go to a sporting event, some form of entertainment. Nowadays, your ticket is on your phone, and you tap in, and then you have access to go inside. That is what's coming to grocery stores. Even the birds are chirping at it. All right, this is what we're telling you. But again, you have the likes of these false prophets, the ISHBK, the IUIC, the WFI, HOI. Anyone that's not telling you that the mark of the beast is an RFID microchip in order for you to buy is a false prophet. Okay? So, I just want to bring this information out because this, again, is a prerequisite. Let me look at that word prerequisite. A prerequisite is something that must happen, exist, or be done before something else can happen. Because this Esau Edom, all right, under the guise of the spiritual demon Satan, which is the left hand of the Heavenly Father. Yes, Salak here. Got a phone call. Still in the middle of work, but yeah, I'll read this again. A prerequisite is something that must happen, exist, or be done before something else happens. Common examples include taking a basic class before an advanced one, or getting a visa before traveling, right? So you take a basic class before going to an advanced one, so you're prepared for the advanced class. The advancement of these policies that are being in place in regards to buying groceries at a discount price is what? A membership ID. The advanced ID is going to be the digital ID, aka the RFID microchip, aka the mark of the beast. Okay? And just simple, all right? It's very simple because Esau Edom moves in the form of gradualism, all right? Because he's under the authority of the left hand of the Heavenly Father. And that is the attribute of the Heavenly Father, whether on the left hand or on the right hand. The Most High uses gradualism, all right? The Most High uses stepping stones and stages before something else occurs. And that's all this is, all right? So, as the scriptures tell you, watch as well as pray, and keep your eyes on the prize. Until next time, call Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Yahushai, Shalom to the left.
So there you have it, though. That's what's coming. And then, of course, this brother does a live lesson every morning, so I'm going to tap into his morning news and prophecy, wake up the mighty men. New World Order preparations, because that's the times that we're in, right? As you know, there's a lot of prerequisites already happening, and there's shortages everywhere, right? And just not enough water to put out them goddamn fires, right? Direct energy weapons being used, places being burned out, in guise of a drought, right, because the resources are being used to create data centers. Yeah, just setting it up, the New World Order. They've been setting it up. Now they're just going full throttle. The Most High is speeding things up for the elect's sake, as this video gets into. And this is live, of course.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples for his young brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the Hope Lake after pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, and Kakadash, pushing the Abadi and Shalom to the hopeful Lake, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. All right, and what I want to get into this morning, all right, we'll get into this morning news and prophecy, wake up the mighty man. which comes from, prophecy in the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, which we'll go through that chapter, starting in verse 9 on down, just going through and breaking it down, because we're living in these prophecies, man. We're living in the actual prophecy that our forefathers seen thousands of years ago, okay? And we're living in these prophecies real time, okay? And that's the Lord showing that He is. That's the Lord showing His power in the earth, by having our forefathers see these visions, have these things scribed down and recorded in a book, okay? The collection, because if you go into the Bible, is filled with a collection of prophecies. It has history, it has accounts, it has parables, okay? It has the gospel, the epistles, okay? And all these things speak to the power of Yahweh Bashim Shah, okay? So as we're looking at what's happening in the planet Earth, well, there's a book that explains these things to a T, and it makes it undeniable that He is, okay? No other book is doing this, man. All right, that's why, matter of fact, let's start out here before we even get into Joel, the 3rd. Let's get this in Isaiah 34, okay? And then we'll tap in. All right, there's a book of Isaiah 34 and 16. It says, "Seek you out of the book of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shah, and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it hath commanded, and His spirit it hath gathered them." Okay? So seek out the book of the Lord, which is the scriptures. Okay, the Bible, So as we have been given an understanding of the Bible in these latter days, we're able, to seek out, all right, the will of Yahweh Bashim Shah. We're able to be informed on what the Lord is doing in the earth, man. All right, and we're living in the transitional kingdoms, man. And Esau, he's done. He's finished. This age is finished. This world is finished, man. Okay, everything about this world, about this age, about what we thought was life on this side, man, is done. Okay, it's over. You see, we on to something else, man. We in the spirit of moving full steam ahead to a new world, man. Okay, to a new age of righteousness, man. You see, that mind of trying to build here and establish something here, that's gone, man. We in the transition because we understand the will of the Lord. So as we understand the will of Yahweh Bashim Shah, man, okay, we have an expectation that's beyond this world, beyond this age, man. Okay? And we're seeing that nothing that's written in the Bible is going to fail. Everything that, was supposed to happen according to the scripture has already happened. And everything that's supposed to happen in the future, according to the scripture, is in motion to happen, man. Because the last, few prophecy is the MOTB. When we speak of the MOTB, civil unrest and Jacob's trouble is included in it. Okay? The persecution of the prophet, all this surrounds this MOTB, because we know when the devil pushes this MOTB, he wants to push a crisis. He wants to push civil unrest. He wants to push, famine. Okay? He's going to engineer these things, certain engineered crisis, then there's certain things the Lord going to be doing. Okay? So we know that surrounding the MOTB, that you're going to have the fulfillment of Jacob's trouble, famines, civil unrest, pestilence, okay, and the persecution of the prophets, man. You see? And then when you get to the point to where he mandates this MOTB, this war is going to eventually go nuclear, man. Okay? And erase everything that this man is trying to do. Okay? And it's going to usher in the return of Yahweh Shah. Because every prophecy has been fulfilled except these last few. And these last few, we're seeing it happen in real time. They're in motion. You see? So, let's go from there, and let's get this in Joel 3 and 9. Because there's a certain spirit that's in the earth, man, amongst these nations. Okay, let's get this in the AMP. Okay? But the Lord has a certain spirit that He's put on these heathens, man, for the sake of prophecy. Alright? And that's why we see these heathens moving how they move. Okay? Joel 3 and 9 said, "Proclaim this among the pagan nations. Prepare a war. Stir up the mighty men." It says among the pagan nations, the actual Gentiles, man. Okay? These actual other nations outside, alright, the sons of God, the nation of Israel. Okay? So we're seeing these Gentiles will prepare a war. Stir up the mighty men. So the Lord is doing it. Let all the men of war come near. Let them come up. This is the Lord is doing it. So we're seeing the spirit amongst these mighty men to stir it up. The warriors of these other nations, they're stirred up for war. You see? The Lord is showing that Babylon, okay, is in decline. Okay, ain't no unseeing that. These nations see that Babylon is vulnerable, man. And the Lord wanted it to be like that, man. Okay? These nations see that Babylon is vulnerable, man. Alright? And now there's a spirit stirred up in these nations, man. Okay? To eradicate America, man. Remove America All right, off the board, man.
Yep, and like everything else, though, Iran, it's not that they didn't have the strategy, it's now that they're using it. A strike first, hit hard prophecy, or strategy. But it is prophecy, right? That the mighty men would be stirred up. And we'll come down to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which Iran is already there. But like everything else, though, Iran's proven that they're actually a superpower, not just a third world country. But in their business of superpower, they just pretty much are the kings of the East, if you will. Meaning that they're stirred up now, you know, and they're ready to fight. And they're showing that they can strike first and hit hard. A totally different policy than the first 4 Operation True Promises. Now, they're stirred up. You know, the Medes and the Persians are stirred up. So I got more here. I got another one here. And this is from the Stu Peters Network. So, as you know, the skies are being polluted with chemtrails. The foods are definitely poisoned. And they're doing this all with a purpose, right? To keep everybody in that docile state of mind. So that way, when they move in their New World Order, which they're doing, nobody else sees it, right? And so here's a little bit of how geoengineering the foods, right? You know, because that's what it's all about, geoengineering. And Esau's been playing this scheme for some time. You see Dr. Fucky, you know, pretty much won't even admit to how many people he's killed because he pleads the fifth. He ain't going to talk about it. It doesn't matter to them. They want you dead. And they've been killing you for a long time, as this goes into.
If you believe we are fighting a war, you act like a warrior. Welcome to the Medical Rebel Podcast, where we speak dangerous truths and deconstruct the lies of the biomatrix.
I'm proud of you, you know that. I hope you do.
You know, if you believe that, I'm not saying you're the dumbest person in the world, but you better hope the dumbest person in the world doesn't die. Oh, God love Senator Kennedy. Okay. And I just wanted to introduce our guest here, Christopher Keys of Vaccine Police and One Man Army. I'm just going to say, hold on, I have your, there we go. There he is. This is his One Man Army vaccine mobile. So,
well, you called me Christopher Keys, and let me correct you. I don't mean to do this. There's K-E-Y. There's only one of it. The world can't handle 2, sweetheart.
it's just one key, yeah. But it's Keys' car.
There you go.
Okay. So I also want to point out that we have, I've gotten involved with these guys because if you watch this video I've got on my website, a link to it, it's this on the link. It's pretty impressive what's happened. You know, I told you I kept having.
I believe this is Mike Adams speaking
but
to
I didn't
him.
have my cloud, my pulse electromagnetic activation thing. Well, and you know, when you're well, you don't miss things. When you're well, you don't realize there's a problem, okay? But when I started writing this book and sitting in front of all this electronic stuff for 12 hours a day, I started not doing well, including having ankle swelling, which means your body's not able to keep water where it should be, which is intracellular, not extracellular. That's considered a really bad, thing happening if you're moving your water from intra to extracellular. Just 2 sessions on the cloud when I was at this meeting, and my ankle swelling went away. And it's unbelievable. So if anybody's interested in this, you can click on this, learn more about it. And there's actually a sale going on until August 1st. So I'm just putting that out there because I just think it's pretty cool.
I've got to talk about the cloud real quick, Doc, because
Oh, you used it?
sweetheart, come on, you're talking to Christopher Keys, really? Seriously? Come on, Dr. Merritt.
Okay, I know what I was thinking.
About 2 years ago, and again, you really thought it was crazy the first time I met you in Louisiana, but we'll come in that minute.
Oh, that's true. You had mitigation devices where you did them.
Well, again, I've been in this for 28 years because of my twins, and my twins have the rare disease of phenylketonuria where they'll never eat protein, and because of that, I went down the rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole showed me that every vaccine was a bioweapon, and then from bioweapons and vaccines, I went to water went to food went to supplements went to herbs went to frequencies, and let's start with those frequencies. You're going to love this as far as the cloud goes, because my original best friend, mentor, a guy I loved and adored, he had terminal cancer in Birmingham, Alabama, and he was sent home to die at UAB in Birmingham, one of the best medical teaching hospitals and schools in the country, and they sent him home to die, and he said no, he made a lot of money working with a company called Health South. You remember Health South?
Oh, yeah.
Health South Rehab, they created the largest digital hospital in the world. It was supposed to open up in Birmingham, Alabama, but then the governor and Richard Scrushy, the CEO, got put in jail. And one of the reasons they got put in jail that nobody's ever talked about was because we were in the process of putting the frequency technology into the hospital, and we're going to break this all down live tomorrow. And then he back engineered. If you guys have not heard about Royal Raymond Rife in 1932 was given terminal cancer patients 30 days to cure, 14 to 16, another 30 days to cure the other 2, 100% cure rate. Well, my original partner, Lynn Kinney, bought the original estate of Royal Raymond Rife, back engineered it, cured himself of terminal cancer, and we brought to market the first ever beam ray. We used to have a RISE conference in Seattle, Washington every year for 12 years, and we would buy all the competitors' equipment that came to our conference. We would send it back to Huntsville, Alabama. My engineer and worked for NASA, and we would back engineer, we would test it, and we would bring it back the following year to prove which technology worked. And 11 years, 12 years later, we had nobody there showing up at the conference because we identified them all as fake and frauds. Okay, so. Going into the cloud, the beamer, those guys recruited me forever and ever and ever. They wanted me to come sell the beamer, but I had my beam ray, and I love the technology. But again, I had the beam ray. I couldn't work with those guys. And then my best friend and partner died. Lynn Kinney, he was murdered on a cruise ship that I was supposed to be on. This is a true story, Dr. Merritt.
I want to be married. I want to know how they picked him out on a cruise ship. I'm going on a meeting on a cruise ship next year.
Okay. Let me slow down there because you made it sound like all your people knew about this. So
well, we know about Raymond Wright, but Royal Wright.
Well, let me go to that real quick because Lynn was my best friend. He was my mentor, and he told me things that nobody else should know. And talking about Richard Strusey was head of Health South. Lynn told me that Richard Strusey was his best friend, that he made a lot of money working with Richard, and they'd done all these things, and Richard had a little thing that he wasn't supposed to have, and utilizing this light technology, Lynn got rid of it, and Lynn told me that him and Richard were thick as thieves, that he could get Lynn to do, Richard would do anything Lynn told him to do, more than his wife, and it's crazy stuff, Dr. Merritt, crazy stuff, but what Lynn didn't know, this is the first time I met Lynn Kinney in my life, okay, and he didn't know at the particular moment in time, Dr. Merritt, I was training Karen Strusey, which was Richard Strusey's wife. Ex-wife, okay? Ex-wife. So I finished up with this major meeting with Lynn Kinney the first time I met him, and he was telling these back crazy stories about him and his relationship with Lynn Kinney and Richard Strusey, and how they were going to bring this technology to market and change the world. And he didn't know I was training Karen Strusey. So I leave his office, I get on the phone, and I call up Karen. I said, Karen, I'm coming to your house right now. She said, why? I said, just shut up, I'm coming to your house. So I drive over to her house, and I get there. I said, Karen, would you happen to know a guy named Lynn Kinney? She said, oh my God. I said, what? She said, that guy's crazy. I said, what do you mean? She said, him and Rich were talking about they're going to save the world. They had this device that would cure cancer and hepatitis and TB. I mean, that damn Lynn, Richard probably loved Lynn more than me. Lynn could get him to do anything. I said, do what? I can't make this up, Dr. Merritt. This is a true story. So anyway, my best friend, Lynn Kinney, we had put together a cancer cruise. We've been planning for a year because we knew in international waters, there is no law. Okay, no law in international water. We can control the water, the food, the air, the frequencies, the stuff. We can control everything. We thought. Okay, and we had over 100 participants go on this cruise. Through the grace of God, I couldn't go, and I didn't go, thank God. And Lynn Kinney calls me up the first day of the cruise, and Christopher, we got over 100 participants here. They love everything that we're doing. They so wish you were here, brother. I just got through swimming with the dolphins for the last 30 minutes. I went sea doing for the last 2.5 hours, me and my bride. And dude, I'm on the bow of the ship right now, and I'm having a margarita, and I so wish you were here. I said, brother, I wish I was there, but it couldn't happen. And the next day, Dr. Merritt calls me up, and he says, Christopher, something's not right. So what do you mean? He says, Chris, I don't know, but my body, I don't know what it is, but something's not right.
Now, what year was this?
This would have been in 2011 is when they shut us down. It was 2009. It was 2009.
Okay. So long before COVID. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this was 2009. We knew COVID was coming. We predicted COVID. Dude, Dr. Merritt, I know you think I'm batshit crazy, and I am, but the stories that we've never even begun to talk about.
You got some history.
I've been doing this, Dr. Merritt, for 28 years.
Yeah. No, I know.
28 years, and you have no idea how much I love COVID because you people finally woke the hell up, and it was so lonely.
Oh, I was out there, but I wasn't out there with the same group. I was out there with the APS speaking against why you don't want government medicine, which without government medicine, you wouldn't have the COVID issue. Okay?
Of course.
Right. You can't force people without coercive government. But anyway, what happened to your friend?
So he calls me up the next day. He says, I don't know, something's going on. I said, dude, what can I do? He said, I don't know. I said, look, I know we hate medical doctors, but this is the time where go see the nurse. So
they have doctors on cruise ships. So
right. Yeah. I said, go see the doctor, go see the nurse. He hangs up. The next day, Dr. Merritt, I get a call from the captain of the ship. He's dead on the ship.
And was an autopsy done? Do they know what happened?
It took 30 days to get the body back from Los Angeles, California, back to Birmingham, Alabama, and they did an autopsy on him. What you need to know is Lynn Kinney had terminal cancer at UAB. He was sent home to die. He cured himself of terminal cancer. So every year he had a complete total physical, to make sure he was healthy. He'd had a complete total physical 3 months prior to death. Okay, and we got the autopsy back 30 days later, and they said he had congestive heart failure. And again, it's very possible. It's very plausible. And
I mean, it could be, but it's just it's kind of suspicious. And the thing of it is, and that's why I put up that stuff. When you look at what we know, what we can do with electromagnetics, and have been able to do for decades, way back.
Centuries.
Yeah, if you really, for sure, I can prove it from the 1920s and the Soviets. And psychotronics, they can invade your brain. They can stop your heart. That's what that
Congress, they showed you. They had the gun. They had no dart, no nothing. They could just
with everything off. I'm not even sure. I believe that.
And that was believed to take out Hugo Chavez.
In at least some technology.
Yes.
And so now it's true, I think, in optogenetics. I mean, basically, they can give you a light-sensitive chemical, And they can do it in rats. We know it can work. And I think this is what happened at the Travis Scott concert. They can inject you with a sensitive chemical, and then when they want to turn on the wavelength, they can stop your heart. And that's what the victims stopped. One victim I found that I think 8 people died, but there were like 14 or 12 or 14 that dropped. And one of the people that didn't die said it felt like my heart stopped. So it wasn't that they were being crushed ahead of time. The crush thing happened after they were on the floor. But I really think that was an optogenetic trial run.
And like everything else, though, direct energy weapons to stop your heart. How do you think they went in and got Maduro in Venezuela earlier this year? Yeah, they have that kind of shit. And you don't think that they're not going to use that to kill all the people that, won't submit to the New World Order. A lot of us are going to die in the space, but we're going to also be resurrected. Some of us are going to have to be martyred because they are going to try and kill us with everything they can, and electromagnetics is just another thing, as you can tell, though, that they've had it for years. So, we're being poisoned with everything possible, and like everything else, I wasn't going the whole 2 hours of that, but nonetheless, though, fast forward to now, right? EU sets new Russian gas record despite banned plans. The EU has been importing record volumes of Russian liquefied natural gas, despite a push to fully stop imports from Russia. But that would destroy them if they do. But Russia has thought, okay, well, since they were going to ban us anyways, we might just limit the sales. Russia hasn't carried that out yet, but nonetheless, though, plans exist to end long-term imports of Russian LNG from next year after the EU already banned purchases under the new short-term contracts. So it pretty much, it's going to be dead out there, man. So Belgium has relied entirely on Russian LNG imports in July as disruption in West Asia curbed alternative supplies to Europe. According to Bloomberg calculations published on Monday, country reportedly imported around 400,000 tons of Russian gas during the month, while total LNG purchases fell more than 40% year-on-year. Moscow remained Europe's second largest LNG supplier after the U.S. The outlet roads. So like everything else, though, yeah, totally rely on U.S. energy. That's a joke. They don't even have enough weapons to defend themselves. And that's becoming more and more comical. U.S. has used virtually all key long-range missiles in Iran war. So, like everything else, though, missile defense and missile command. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because when the nuclear war starts, it doesn't even look like this. And it's said that they will not miss. Their arrows are sharp and shall not miss. So, nonetheless, though, the Third World War is coming quickly. The U.S. has used virtually all of its stockpile of 2 key long-range precision missile systems during Washington's 5-month war against Iran. Citing 3 sources familiar with internal military data, reports said the U.S. has exhausted most of its ATACMS and precision strike missiles, surface-to-surface weapons that allow forces to strike targets accurately from a considerable distance. So, yeah, you ain't got no ammo, like Biden already said years ago. So, and like everything else, though, you're seeing what's close to a mutiny. Top generals turn against Trump in public to stop the war. So, what seems to be a mutiny? Here we go.
The United States top military admirals and generals and other military leaders revolting against Donald Trump, turning against Donald Trump, and leaking to the press just how dire of a condition the United States military is in. How the United States isn't simply in a position where its stockpiles of THAADs and Patriot interceptors are being depleted, but virtually all of our THAADs and Patriot interceptors and Navy destroyer anti-ballistic missile capabilities have been depleted and destroyed by Donald Trump. We really began to see an escalation of the leaks from top generals and admirals admirals beginning right around July 20th. You started to see headlines like this, even in Trump-friendly rags like the New York Post. U.S. doesn't have enough missiles to protect troops in the Middle East for long-term war with Iran, say experts, and that article cites numerous top military officials who spoke with the Wall Street Journal, with the Post, and others. Then, July 21st, the Washington Post reports, we do not have enough air defense and long-range munitions due to low supply and battle damage to safely sustain operations, and I don't think the White House is aware of that, citing top military officials. That's what the Washington Post reported then. Then we got this steady stream escalating in the past 72 hours. Dan Lamoth, a national security reporter, a Defense Department reporter at the Washington Post, reported the following about General Alexis Grinkowicz over the weekend and over the past 24, 48 hours as well. And Grinkowicz, codename the Grinch, he's the top allied commander from the United States in Europe. He's a serious dude, probably the best respected general left in the United States after Hegseth's purge of a lot of our top military officials. And Grinkowicz, the top general NATO allied command in Europe, said the following. Well, he leaked out a written notification, rather, to senior Pentagon officials saying that without another operational Navy destroyer in Europe, he will be forced to choose defense of the United States homeland over that of Israel, knowing the wedge issue, of course, that Donald Trump got into this catastrophic and unlawful war to join Netanyahu, and making it very clear that the decision, and the American people would know this, that Donald Trump was protecting Israel over the United States. I think we all know that already. However, when you have General Grinkowicz putting that in writing, that is a big deal. Grinkowicz, also top general, warning the Pentagon that he lacks sufficient forces to protect the United States, and that it would essentially mean protecting Israel and then leaving the United States, Asia, all the other Arab nations very, very vulnerable. We heard from Reuters, we heard from CNN, we heard from Politico. It was a tsunami of leaks taking place in the past 48 hours. You had the CNN story. The U.S. has depleted nearly 80% of its THAAD interceptors and half of its Patriot missiles, and a significant number of other precision munitions during the Iran
this is how America gets its
all
ass
Patriot
fucked.
interceptors and THAADs are depleted. We are in a dangerously low crisis situation, senior military commanders have warned. They said these stockpiles have never been this low ever. These shortages, along with concerns over Iranian retaliation and civilian casualties, pushed our generals and admirals to essentially give Donald Trump the riot act, which is you are about to cause a situation where you will have to be forced to publicly surrender in a way that will just utterly humiliate the United States and everybody. And they proposed a way to Donald Trump to try to save face. And it's interesting to see that kind of being implemented now. So you know the way Iran has developed this psychological profile on Donald Trump? We've been covering it here on the Midas Touch Network. And I mean, they didn't need a team of psychiatrists, psychologists, and other individuals who are experts in the field of mental health to diagnose Donald Trump as psychologically ill. They view Donald Trump as severely mentally ill, as a malignant narcissist. And so they studied how do you deal with him. And so one of the things that we've learned, and we've heard this through warnings from top generals and admirals as well, and we've also seen it and observed it, is that Iran has recognized that you actually need to escalate with Trump to de-escalate. You need to up the ante and show him that you are not going to stop. Showing any weakness at all, Donald Trump perceives as an invitation for him to strike harder. That's why over the past 48 hours, 72 hours, despite our corporate news covering it up, what have we been covering here on the Midas Touch Network? 3 tankers have been destroyed in the Strait of Hormuz by Iran while Donald Trump was out there threatening decapitation. Iran struck a U.S. base in Kuwait again. The Houthis have been striking hard in Dubai and other areas. The Iranians destroyed another MQ-9 Reaper. So that's one of the things that Iran realized now. Our generals and admirals came up with this plan, a face-saving exercise for Donald Trump by making Donald Trump feel he did a deal because he is a little 3-year-old brat. No offense to 3-year-old brats. So our generals and admirals had this idea, Eureka! What is Donald Trump really good at? Fraud. I mean, I'm not sure he's good. He's a horrible human being, but he's a fraud and a con artist. And the other thing is stealing other people's things, stealing their music, stealing their ideas, stealing their IP, stealing their accomplishments, stealing their valor. That's what Donald Trump did. So our admirals and generals had a plan. Iran and Oman are doing the hard work. They're negotiating a deal for Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. Eureka! Let's just tell Donald, you don't have to do anything. Look, Witkoff, Kushner, we know this is very, very difficult for you. We know all you're trying to do is your quid pro quo deals. Why don't we have Besant go? This is what our generals and admirals did. This is the plot. They executed it. It's like the end of Usual Suspects, where Kaiser Sose starts to walk, or the end of Sixth Sense, where you realize when he sees dead people how it ends, right? So this was the plan. Make Donald Trump, the 3-year-old brat, feel like he did a deal. Manipulate the market, Donald, all good. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have Iran do the deal with Oman. Iran will control the Strait of Hormuz. And then, Donald, you just take credit for it and say that you did it. Okay, Donald? We'll get you the participation trophy.
And that's what's happening, as you can tell. No beating around the bush, this guy here, man. You know, tells it like it is. But, you know, like everything else, though, that's exactly what... And, again, they have a Cobra Kai strategy. Strike first or strike hard. Don't wait for them to strike you. Rather, you strike first, right? Explosions reported in Dubai Industrial District. Several explosions have reportedly been heard overnight at the Jebel Ali Free Zone, a major industrial logistics district in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Online witnesses described as many as 7 loud blasts over a period of roughly 20 minutes. Videos and photographs starting to show smoke and fires in the area circulated on social media alongside reports that ambulances have been dispatched to the scene. So, pretty much though, this time it's the Houthis that struck, from Yemen. Multiple explosions were reported last night in Jebel Ali. United Arab Emirates denied any attack occurred. And of course the government's going to deny that. Yemeni armed forces said they'll release a statement in 2 hours, must be related. So like everything else though, Yemen, Ansarallah struck back as well. We've been here before. Phil Connors has woken up. This is the Groundhog Day thing, because it's over and over again. So, the plan for Donald Trump to say that he has a deal, they want to make a deal. Phil Connors has woke up to another instance of the same day. The U.S., Iran, and Oman are said to be close to a deal to reopen the strait. But guess what? The U.S. is not included in that, but Donald Trump is going to tell everybody that the U.S. is involved. Axios reports that the U.S. aims for an announcement today. So, like everything else, so they got a deal. That is, Oman and Iran do. Hormuz deal to give Iran greater control over shipping. And this is reported by Axios. The U.S. is aiming to announce an agreement on reopening the key waterway on Wednesday, outlet has reported. So, expect Donald Trump to claim victory, right? U.S. President Trump announced on Saturday that he had called off a planned attack of Iran, claiming that D.C. and Tehran were close to reaching a diplomatic solution. So again, you're hearing first that this was a deal between the generals. Is like, okay, well, why don't you just take the credit for this, and this is part of your exit. So they sort of know how to deal with a narcissist psychopath. U.S.-led border peace alters terms for Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Well, like everything else, though, the idea is that Hamas disarms and the Israeli state takes full control of Gaza. The board said Hamas must fully disarm before Israeli state pulls out, while the initial deal stipulates that disarmament and withdrawal must occur simultaneously. So pretty much the withdrawal and just let the Israeli state have it. U.S. President Trump's border peace for Gaza has altered its conditions regarding the withdrawal of Israeli occupation forces from the besieged strip. The board said on 3rd of August marked a violation of the initial agreement reached last year. The border peace announced on Monday evening following a meeting between its director and Israeli Prime Minister that further withdrawal of the Israeli army is conditional on the residents' full disarmament first. So, unless they disarm completely. So you can see that the deal's getting more fucked up. Oh, and the U.S. signed off on this. Collective punishment. The U.S. Supreme Court greenlights $656 million judgment against Palestinian officials. Case was brought by U.S. victims of attacks in Israel some 25 years ago. Well, there we go. It's collective punishment. The U.S. Supreme Court has refused to freeze a $656 million judgment against Palestinian Authority. Decision was announced on Monday by Justice Sotomayor, a liberal justice who is tasked on taking on emergencies. This comes 22 years after the lawsuit was first launched, and it means the collection of funds can begin immediately. So, like everything else, so just more and more fucked up shit, right? Yemen's Ansarallah announces attack against Saudi airports, so they're hitting back hard too. They're striking first and hitting hard. Well, we know that Sahana airport was attacked, so why not? They needed revenge anyways. Ansarallah, better known as the Houthis, announced on Tuesday that its forces targeted a sensitive site at the Narjan airport in southern Saudi Arabia using a drone. AFP reported that the airport's main radar was hit and that services were suspended following the attack. Ansarallah military spokesman said the attack came in response to the Saudis' enemy violation of Yemeni airspace over the Sada and Hasha governorates with its drones. So like everything else, so actually this was a tit for tat. So they're just paying them back. Saudi Arabia seeks to contain renewed conflict through diplomacy. In other words, they don't want to keep fighting, man, because it's hitting them. Saudi Arabia is seeking to contain this renewed conflict with Yemen's Houthis, also known as Ansarallah, through diplomacy, amid a new Yemeni blockade targeting shipping on Saudi Arabia's Red Sea coast. Yeah, without their oil, they ain't got nothing. Reports said that Saudi Arabia has held talks with Ansarallah through Omani mediators, but is still preparing military operations if diplomacy fails. So, like everything else, though, that's another reason why the Yemens are striking first, because, you know, they know about the plan to attack them. You know, a ground invasion. They know all about that. And a coalition. There's nothing that's secret anymore. Brent bounces. Houthis attack sink vessel off Yemen with sea drone. Houthis have quickly made a good on their earlier promise, with the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center having reported the following fresh attack off of Yemen. UK MTO has received a time-late report of an incident of 9 nautical miles southwest of Al Mocha, Yemen. Vessel has been reported as sunk. Vessels are advised to transit with caution and report any suspicious activity to the UK MTO while authorities are investigating. Basically, you know, they didn't go through the proper channels. Yemen controls that port and that strait, so they're trying to cross illegally. So yeah, that's going to happen. Why Syria will not join the fight against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Such a move could undermine bilateral relations while potentially empowering ISIS in its quest to bring down al-Jilani. Wait a minute, ISIS to bring down ISIS? Because this is one of ISIS's leaders. You see how hypocritical that is? You know, he's not Hayat al-Sham, he's really ISIS. You know, so just weird shit, right? You know, because they already have Al-Qaeda, you know, the offshoots of ISIS. The issue of what role Damascus could play regarding Hezbollah has returned to the forefront amid a flurry of recent high-level statements. On Tuesday, the Lebanese movement has for the first time publicly expressed its willingness to hold talks with Damascus, meaning that they don't want any further war. This move comes after President Trump opened his mouth and entertained the idea of Syria getting involved in Hezbollah's disarmament during his meeting with Lebanese president at D.C. last month. So basically, they put words in his mouth. And he's like, no, I don't want to get into any conflict with Hezbollah. Because Hezbollah whooped their ass in the Idlib province and was whooping their ass. He doesn't want that can of whoop ass opened again. You know, because the whole reason why Bashar al-Assad was able to hold on to those territories is because Lebanese, you know, Hezbollah was helping the Syrian armed forces, you know, better known as the Syrian Arab Army. Sorry, they're called the Syrian Armed Forces now, but the Syrian Arab Army, you know, who was fighting against Hayat al-Sham, fighting against Al-Qaeda. And so he doesn't want any renewed conflicts with Hezbollah. He already knows what they're capable of. This move comes after President Trump entertained the idea of Syria getting involved. The Syrian president would like to come in, Trump said. You know, they've been fighting, he's been fighting Hezbollah for a long time. Yeah, and he knows what they're capable of. I think it'd be very effective, so it's something I think about. Well, he's like, wait a minute, I didn't say any of that. Trump said that, but I didn't say that, and nor did I give him the idea. So, like everything else, though, they do not want to get into any conflicts. So, like everything else, though, you know, you can see that the U.S. has depleted all the stockpiles, and it's just a sitting duck out there, you know. Ducks to fuck, you could say. You know, fuck ducks. You know, just, you know, another target on their back, because that's what's. And don't forget the draft's in a few weeks, so you know, Babylon's going to exhaust everything. If it hasn't enough already, they're going to exhaust their ground forces too. And that's how you depopulate, and that's how you control. So, got one more here before I close this out. So, all roads are leading to the MOTB, which you know how they're gradually bringing that in, as well as the Third World War that cometh quickly. 2nd Ezra chapter 15, and this is in the G&B. The Most High Yahweh says, proclaim to my people the prophetic messages that I will give you, and then have them written down, because they are true and will be fulfilled. So everything written in this book is going to be fulfilled. We're just waiting on a couple more, as the brother put it earlier. Do not be afraid of those who plot against you or be disrupted by their unbelief. You know, these two-thirds that don't want to listen to you, these scoffers, etc. Every unbeliever will die because of their unbelief. You know, yeah, you don't want to believe that the MOTB, the micro C-hip is the MOTB. Well, you're going to die ultimately because you're going to get it, but you're going to die in your unbelief because you won't heed the warnings, right? The Most High Yahweh says, I am going to bring terrible disasters upon the world. War and famine, death and destruction. You not see that? You see it's everywhere, right? Because wickedness has spread everywhere, and evil has reached its limit. Therefore, the Most High Yahweh says, I will no longer remain silent about the wickedness of these godless people. I will no longer tolerate it. They have murdered innocent people. I mean, look at Dr. Fucky. And you know, he couldn't even be honest about that. You know, he didn't have to plead the fifth, but he did plead the fifth. He has no remorse whatsoever. And the blood they have spilt, cries out to me for revenge. The souls of the righteous are constantly pleading for vengeance. You know, and that's us going out there and teaching. Let there be no doubt, saith the Most High, I will hear the plea of all the innocent people who have been murdered, and I will take vengeance for what has been done to them. So like everything else though, he's not going to remain silent anymore. He's going to start hearing, and he's going to start punishing Esau. And like everything else though, that vaccine, definitely, that's been exposed. You know, Dr. Fucky is on trial, even though he's never going to see any jail time or anything like that. But nonetheless though, it's been exposed that, yeah, that killed at least, and those that still have fucked up problems, it's killed a lot of people. Over 500,000 is what they admit have been affected by it, but there's a lot more that's been affected. My people are being led to the slaughter like a flock of sheep. They will no longer have to live in Egypt, which is another term for Babylon, because that's where we are, the place of Sodom and Egypt. I will use all my strength and power to bring them out of that land, and I will bring disasters on the Egyptians as I did earlier, and will destroy their country. And that's talking about America, you know, which he's comparing to the, you know, what he did in Egypt as he's going to do to America. The whole land will be in mourning. It will be shaken to its foundations when I, the Most High, strike it and pound on it. And you're seeing them getting wiped out everywhere. And fertilizers, you know, failing, because it talks about this here in verse 13. Yeah, shortages everywhere. Their crops failing. Farmers will mourn because their seed will fail to sprout, and their trees will be destroyed by blight, hail, and terrible storms. And that's what you see happening. There's fire everywhere. Fires everywhere, destroying everything. And ultimately going to be destroyed in the nuclear destruction. The war that will bring their destruction is very near. And you see what started the Iran conflict, right? Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations, and that's happening now. There will be great political turmoil. That's what's happening to Trump now. With one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government. There will no longer be access to the cities, free access to the cities. So, you know, that's talking about lockdowns, IDF taking over, because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. Driven by famine and terrible suffering, men will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. So, great and terrible things are coming. Jacob's trouble is upon us. So, it's interesting to get it in that translation. But we see these things starting to take form. So, hopefully this has all been edifying. Then I would say, Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakadash, Wa Abad Babal. Brakatam to the hopeful elect. Shalom.